Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the Hall of Fame show. And I'm your host, Kirk Buchner, the owner, co-owner, operator, co-operator. I do a lot of things, and I do this with you, Evan Nolan. And what do we own? NotInHallOfFame.com, the fictitious Athlete Hall of Fame, the fictitious Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, the United States Athletic Hall of Fame, where you can all vote. Vote now. www.notinhalloffame.com/USA. It's pretty easy to remember, right? I would think.
Mhm.
Yeah. And we've got another.
The not in Hall of Fame Buchnerverse continues to expand.
It actually did grow another one today because
Wow.
another brand new show has just been recorded.
I like to think that we are the Big Bang from which a Buchnerverse.
Yes, this is the alpha. This is the granddaddy of them all. This is
Fair
the
enough.
Starcade if we're going from NWA wrestling, which will be the only time I'm going to mention wrestling today. I don't even
I
know
don't know what that means.
there's a lot of things that I don't know what they mean. Usually I'll say them anyway, and then you'll correct me after the fact after I've already
It's okay. Nothing is as bad as when we did the thing a couple weeks ago, and I just completely screwed up Kevin Williams thing. I completely misread a paragraph on something, and I just added one thing to another. I fortunately called on it and realized my mistake quickly, but you know.
Ah,
I would also, as long as I'm apologizing, I'd also like to apologize to our friend. Oh my goodness.
to apologize for forgetting it.
Yeah, my God, to our friend Jack, who
Okay.
invited me on the Facebook Live thing yesterday,
Mhm.
and I literally told him something that seemed like a complete made up. That the door of my bedroom fell off the hinges, and I was fixing it, so I couldn't go on his.
I wasn't able to make it myself either. I
Yeah.
accepted and then I fell asleep.
Well, yeah, no, I was actually fixing the door. So I know it sounded like I was washing my hair and didn't want to go with, someone from school, but I apologize, Jack. I will, my door is 2/3 fixed. The bottom hinge still needs to be worked on, but I wasn't actually just blowing you off. So
All good. Well, it's kind of a slow week, and it should be. It's the Christmas season, holiday season. So there hasn't been a whole lot of Hall of Fame news. And I don't know that I really want to do much of a smorgasbord anymore. Sometimes I just get amped up over nothing.
I can understand, but I do think the one thing that we should talk about here, and it kind of bleeds into the next section.
Okay.
It's possible the most famous person in the world died today.
Uh, well, I would say that I tweeted this that he's the goat of goats.
Mm-hmm. I mean, if you're thinking international sports history,
Mm-hmm. Going
the
big.
only other person I think might compare is Muhammad Ali.
Muhammad Ali, the only one from a team sport would be Michael Jordan, and even then, that's
Yeah,
not
but
even close.
but yeah, how much did Jordan register in Asia and Africa and places like that? I don't think that.
Depends on the country, of course, but I mean, like it's Pele,
Right.
it's every country. I mean,
Yeah, I mean,
well, should we just open with that?
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Let's just go there.
Yeah, because I mean, you're the soccer guy, so I imagine this hits you a lot harder than it does me, and I think also too, uh, we've known that this was coming for a while. So I guess he's been in hospice for a while. So he passed away at age 82 of colon cancer.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds a pretty awful way to die. Not that there's a lot of good ones, but yeah, Pele is one name and that's all you need.
Yeah,
And I would argue, actually, I'm going to argue that he is one of the few athletes who remain just as big after he stopped playing,
agreed.
which does not happen.
Agreed. Yeah, I mean, just an absolute ambassador for the sport. Um, I know that the NASL doesn't get much love overall, but New York Cosmos with him and Beckenbauer
Mhm.
was a big, big step for soccer in America. I mean, I know it took another 15, 20 years even for us to get back to the World Cup. But he was just an absolute and utter legend. I mean, there's no, and everything he did, absolutely everything he did.
I was reading too, and I didn't. I think I've read this before, but I didn't really realize the amount of people who watched that. So what his final game was against his old team, but then he played for both. So it was the Cosmos against Santos,
Mm-hmm.
Brazilian club team. So in perfect fashion, he suits up half with one and then half with the other, and that drew a crowd of, and this blew my mind, over 77,000 people to
Mm-hmm.
watch soccer in the United States in the 70s. No other person could do that.
Yeah.
I don't even know that they could draw something like that now. Well, yeah, you
I
could.
mean, I mean, if Messi were playing, he would draw 77,000 without any trouble. Same thing with Cristiano Ronaldo, probably Mbappe at this point. And the way Erling Haaland is going, maybe him as well. That man is completely on fire. Do you know what the record for most goals scored last year in the Premier League was?
No, I have no idea.
Take a guess. How many did the leading goal scorer score in the Premier League last
Okay,
year?
let's see. Well, it's a 40 game, no, 38 games, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so 38 games, it's a goal a game, which is tricky. 30.
It was 23 actually last year.
Oh, not even
Do
close.
you know how many Holland has right now through 14 games?
I do not.
20.
Wow. Okay.
So he is a force. He has the Premier League record for most goals in his first 14 games.
So I thought this was going to like spin back to like everything that Pele did as in terms of goals, but
Yeah, no, I was just bringing up Holland for a second just because that was nuts. Let's go back to Pele.
yeah,
I mean, absolutely. His first World Cup, he was 17
yeah,
back in
yeah.
1958.
Mhm.
That was actually one of the stats when the U.S. scored against Wales. The last player had scored against Wales in the World Cup was Pele in '58 in the quarterfinals.
Oh wow.
Yeah. But I mean, 58, 62, 66, 70. My son, actually, who has become a soccer, I think I like soccer. He's ridiculous on it. Um, was telling me a story that he heard earlier this week, actually, about how when Pele started, they said that the way he was playing football was not the way the coach wanted him to. And so the coach tried to force him into a regimented role and everything along those lines, and he was terrible. And so went back to ignoring the coach and was playing his own way again. And the coach benched him for a few games. The rest of the players like, "What are you doing?" So I brought him into a big tournament, and I think he was 15 at this point. And he was told to play regimented again and was just awful. And they were losing. Coach said, "You know what? Fine, play your way." And he just absolutely dominated the second half, scored 3 goals, and the team won. And that was the last time anyone tried to stop him from being himself. I think maybe Neymar. I'm trying to get the actual quote from Neymar. His response on Instagram today. Hold on, let me just get the image of it if I can, because I can't get the actual thing. He said that prior to before Pele, 10 was just a number in soccer.
Mm.
I would say before Pele, football was just a sport. Pele changed everything. He turned football into an art, into entertainment. He gave a voice to the poor, to Black people, and especially he gave visibility to Brazil. Football in Brazil have raised their status thanks to the king. He is gone, but his magic will remain. Pele is eternal. That's about as close as you could possibly get.
It's perfect. I don't even know. I don't even want to say anything more after that, but I will. You ever? Again, this is actually the second time I've just brought this up in like 3 shows. From the movie Victory,
Okay.
Pele.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I remember watching that with my dad. Like back in the old days when you'd rent a videotape.
Yeah.
And there's 2 things I remember watching that with my dad. One where he loves, because that's the only sport he really likes is soccer. So Pele's got this one scene where Because of course he's playing soccer on the same team with Michael Caine and Sylvester Stallone, which, all right. Thing one I
Makes
remember
sense.
most, sure, is that Pele said, okay, well, here's a strategy. I'm going to go like this way, and then I score. And my dad says, well, he's Pele, he can do that. 30 minutes later, this movie sucks. Why? Because Sylvester Stallone's American. They can't play soccer because he was in goal.
Right.
So
Fair enough.
those are the two things that he got out of that movie. Which when I reminded him of that, he says like, "Yeah, well, I love Pele in The Great Escape." No, Dad, that no, it wasn't the Great Escape.
He was definitely not in The Great Escape.
Yeah, similar like try to
Yeah.
escape, but yes. And
Understood.
of course, they stuck to those Nazis. So also, there you go. Pele beat the Nazis.
And thank goodness for that. So,
Yes. But yeah, no, I never. Yeah, I guess he would have retired before I would have been really aware of any of that stuff. But that was the first soccer player I probably ever heard of. I think I saw a lot of people saying that on Twitter today. Like you just know that he's just that much bigger than everyone else. I think to your point about Ali, I mean, like Ali was, you may never watch it, you may never have seen a fight in your life. You may not even know what a round is, but you knew who Muhammad Ali was.
yeah. Yeah. And I mean, I'm just trying to think of like anyone else who had that global reach and anyone we can think of who's important in the history of sports here. Jackie Robinson, like any basketball player, baseball player, American football player, hockey player. None of that resonates
No.
outside. Maybe someone like a Jesse Owens in track, but even that's not the same. So
Yeah, but there's so many places where track doesn't mean anything.
no, it's entirely true.
So
I
like,
mean, the Olympics are way more important to Americans than they are to the rest of the world.
yeah, there's only a few countries I agree. Like, it's if it was important to India, they do a lot better than they do, and clearly it's not.
Probably. I mean, yeah, it is very strange. They should be good at some sport other than cricket.
Um, they they don't care.
Yeah, cricket and aren't they pretty good at badminton? I think so. I think those are the two sports. I'm not a big badminton person. I think there's one of those other weird sports they're good at. So
I have no idea.
yeah. So anyway, this is a weird way to end with Pele, but God rest ye, one of the most important people of the 20th century. Certainly.
Was he beloved in Argentina too?
He was incredibly respected in Argentina. I didn't have a ton of conversations
Okay.
about Pele. Everybody hated Ronaldinho when I was down there the first time.
Fair. Yeah.
But everyone kind of respected Roberto Carlos. So it's a respect thing. Like they had Pele, we had Maradona, sort of thing. You argue who's better. It's like the bird and magic, right? Who's better? It depends what side of the border you're on, right? So yeah, he was respected. He was certainly not hated anyway. How could you hate him?
I don't know how that's possible.
Yeah, there's other than being really good, he did nothing to make anybody hate him. So he brought joy. He brought joy to football. Is what he did.
And I think now that you brought up the two other names, or when you talk about Ali, Ali does have some people who still don't like him because of his not going into the military.
Okay.
Hey, I'm not saying them, but I know they exist.
Yeah.
Or they did exist. Jordan, there are some things you can criticize him on, like in terms of.
You bet there is.
Ooh, yes.
Yeah.
I can't. I don't think we're gonna find anything bad about him. Nothing.
At this point, no way. And even if you did, who cares? So
there you go.
Yeah.
So I guess maybe from there we should just I guess we'll just go into the other people we lost.
Yeah, let's go ahead and do that. So this was a bad week for Hungarians, my friend.
Mm.
We lost not one, not two, not three, but four this week.
Holy crap.
I know this is we've been saying that the Beige Mistress has been pretty quiet this year. She made up for it at the end here. Beginning with Lajos Kutny, ice hockey player, member of the Hungarian team at the 1964 Winter Olympics, passed away at the age of 83. Josef Fitos, who a midfielder on the Hungarian national team, passed away at the age of 63. Janos Varga, Hungarian wrestler, Olympic champion and world champion, won the gold medal in the 68 games in Mexico City in Greco-Roman wrestling, passed away at the age of 83. And Imre, oh gosh, did this one last. I should have done in the beginning. You tell me how you'd pronounce SZO with an umlaut over it, LLO with like a closed quotation mark over it, SI.
Smith.
That's congratulations and get a job at Ellis Island. I will go with Solosi, Imre Solosi, sprint canoeist, was in the 60, 64, 68 Olympics, won 2 silver medals in 60, and then placed 4th and 5th in 64, passed away at the age of 81. So there are Hungarians for the week. I will say one of the few people I know from fashion also passed away. Let's bring her up quickly. Dame Vivienne Westwood passed away at the age of 81. I don't follow a lot of stuff, but she's very responsible for bringing punk and new wave fashion to mainstream. So that and The Cure. All right. So for other things, from soccer, soccer executive Kevin Payne, who was the president CEO of DC United and also general manager of Toronto FC, and member of the board of the U.S. Soccer Federation, passed away at the age of 69. These are all music. Let's see here. So we had lost a ton of Southern blues musicians this week. Starting with Luther Johnson, blues singer guitarist, passed under the name of Luther Guitar Jr. Johnson. There's actually 3 Luther Johnsons who are very involved in the blues, but this is Guitar Jr., not Georgia Boy or House Rocker, in case you're wondering. He passed away at the age of 83. Back John Lee Hooker, Muddy Waters, Magic Sam, a whole bunch of folks like that. Also performed 3 albums with the Nighthawks. Walter Wolfman Washington passed away at the age of 79. Singer and guitarist based in New Orleans. Performed Lee Dorsey and a whole bunch of other folks. Released 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 albums, most recently in 2018.
Oh, wow.
He passed away at the age of 79. We'll get to this one in a second. Get to that one in a second. We also lost Maxi Jazz, British musician, rapper, lead vocalist of Faithless out of England, passed away at the age of 65. Freddie Roulette, electric blues lap steel guitarist and singer, played with all sorts of folks down there. Charlie Musselwhite, Harvey Mandel, Earl Hooker, all sorts of folks. He passed away at the age of 83. Harry Shepard, American jazz vibraphonist.
What?
A vibraphone. Do you know what a vibraphone is?
I guess my befuddled face tells the story that I do not.
It's essentially an electric marimba, like an electric xylophone.
Oh.
But he was one of those people, one of the best at it. He played with Billie Holiday, Benny Goodman, Duke Ellington, Barbra Streisand, Doc Severinsen, Coleman Hawkins, and a whole bunch of others. Passed away at the age of 94. Also passing away this week, lead guitarist from the band Black Oak, Arkansas, Harvey Jet passed.
Dandy to the rescue. Sorry.
That's it.
Yeah.
Harvey Jet passed away at the age of 73. Uh, Also passing away, Joe Mercer Marley, Bob Marley's grandson.
Oh, well, what did he pass away from?
An asthma attack in a car
Yeah.
at the age of 31.
Damn.
Yeah. So he had his own musical career as well. Appeared on the Grammy-winning album "Strictly Roots" by Morgan Heritage back in 2014. But yeah, 31 of an asthma attack is a tough one. Also passing away, Brian Casser, one of the somewhat forgotten people in music history. He was the lead of the group Cass and the Casanovas, who were the early rivals of the Beatles in Liverpool. So he was basically the John of the group. Also was the lead singer of Casey Jones and the Engineers, which was the first band for what 3-time Rock and Roll Hall of Famer?
Oh, so I guess Clapton.
Eric Clapton's first band. He was the lead.
Hmm.
But he passed away at the age of 86. One last person, probably the biggest name we lost in music, Ian Tyson from Ian and Sylvia, passed away at the age of 89. And do you remember Ian and Sylvia?
Not that well. I mean,
Okay.
I've heard of them, but that's about it.
Well, they're Canadian,
Right.
and they had a whole bunch of folk hits, Four Strong Winds, Someday Soon, and a few others. But yeah, he was 89 years old. This is one to help me with. WWE UFC fighter Stephen Bonner passed away at the age of 85, or sorry, 45. The American Psycho.
Yeah, I don't remember him in WWE though.
No, I didn't mean to say WWE. I meant to say UFC. My bad.
Oh, UFC. Okay. Yeah.
He was in Impact Wrestling apparently.
Okay. Yeah, that I didn't know. Bonner was pretty good. I mean, he wasn't great. He lost the first Ultimate Fighter, the show that they ran on,
Yeah.
Spike. And the winner got a contract with UFC, but he was so good, and he just he left everything all, like everything in the octagon in every fight. Never won a title, but he is in the UFC Hall of Fame for this fight of the year with crap. I'm blanking against who that was, and
Forrest Griffin, right?
I was going to say Forrest Whitaker. I know that's not right.
I only know that because I have Wikipedia open in front of me, so
Well,
don't be that impressed. And there's a sentence UFC Hall of Fame with one sentence in it. The only other name in there was Forrest Griffin, so it made it easy.
Yeah, so it's because the UFC Hall of Fame is a little bit weird to me in that they've got a fight, like a fight division. So his first fight is part of that. He himself is not. So I mean, when they say UFC Hall of Famer, I mean technically that's true, but not really. I mean, I guess it's sort of like if the Pro Football Hall of Fame inducts, I don't know, the
Immaculate Reception or the Snowball Game.
Well, I was trying to think of something like something where we could just say like some random person then gets inducted that way.
Yeah, so it's the Snowball Game, and everybody on the Raiders and Patriots all are now say they're Hall of Famers.
Right. So it's a little bit strange that way, but it died at 45. But unfortunately, like he got popped twice after his fights for taking steroids. So, and he died of a heart issue.
Right, at 45.
And it's not. I don't want to speak that ill of the dead, but I mean, like, how many times have we talked about gigantic bodybuilders who passed away around the same age?
Yep.
The human body is not meant to do take what he did. So if he got caught twice, I mean, how long was he doing that? Also, to the weight cuts that the fighters do, but that in boxing too, for that matter, it's not the healthiest thing to possibly do. Like the only UFC fighter I ever saw where I knew for sure he wasn't on any kind of steroids. Actually, maybe I'll say two. Just the way he shrunk would be CM Punk, if you want to call him a UFC fighter.
Okay.
Yeah. And Daniel Cormier.
Okay,
Yeah, because he's a doughy bastard.
fair enough.
Yeah, but yeah, unfortunately, that's probably what did him in.
Yep. So as you said, he passed away well at work at the age of 45.
Yeah, I didn't see what he was doing though. So
I
I
didn't,
don't.
I didn't see that either. It just said that he passed away at work. So
Yeah, which I guess is just another thing too. And you brought that up a few times. These guys are the most underpaid athletes. Period.
oh, incredibly underpaid.
Yeah.
So you could not pay me enough to do that. So anything anything to me is underpaid. So
Mhm.
um, from the world of baseball, longtime Oriole and Washington Senator Fred Valentine passed away at the age of 77. Outfielder on those teams in the late 60s, early 70s. Um, from football, we lost a couple folks a long time ago. Two-time AFL All-Star and the 61 AFL All-Star Game MVP, Cotton Davidson, passed away at the age of 91. Quarterback out of Baylor, played for Baltimore Colts for a couple of seasons. He's the fifth pick overall in the 54 draft. Then with the the Dallas Texans, and then with the Oakland Raiders, and from 62 to 68. He's a quarterback and a punter. Also passing away, a name I remember, Demetrius Johnson, played safety for the Lions and Dolphins from 83 through 87. I think I specifically remember him on the 87 Dolphins because I was like the first year I really started following football. But he passed away.
Yeah, as a Pats fan, I mean, you would have seen.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So he passed away at the age of 61. From the world of basketball, Arnie Ferrin passed away at the age of 97. Two-time NBA champion and 49 and 50. What team did he play for in 49 and 50?
Fort Wayne
The Minneapolis Lakers.
and get a chance to get it on the all right fine.
Yeah. Also, the MVP of the Final Four in 1944, NCAA champion in 44, and his number 22 has been retired by the Utah Utes. But he passed away at the age of 97.
Can I guess what school he played for?
Sure, go ahead.
Utah.
Yeah, very good.
Okay, thank you.
And finally, other than Pele, the biggest name on here, actually, when we talk about USA Hall of Fame and people you can vote for, this is one of the first ones that we've been doing. This has passed away, actually. Kathy Whitworth, professional golfer, won 88 LPGA tournaments, more than anyone else in LPGA or PGA history. Also finished as a runner-up 93 other times. So she finished first or second 181 times in her career. And as I say in the street, that's a lot. She became in 1981. She was the first woman ever to reach career earnings of $1 million on the LPGA.
What year was that?
81.
In 81. Okay.
And she is, of course, not surprisingly to anyone, a member of the World Golf Hall of Fame. But she passed away at the age of 83. World Golf Hall of Fame in 75. I just have to read this through. This is why she's one of our nominees for this thing. The Money Tour leader, 65, 66, 67, 68, 70, 71, 72, 73. The Player of the Year, 66, 67, 68, 69, 71, 72, 73. The female Associated Press's Female Athlete of the Year in 65 and 66 across all sports. Like golfer of the decade. Just you can't come up with anything. She's also a member of the New Mexico Hall of Fame, Texas Sports Hall of Fame, Texas Golf Hall of Fame, and the Women's Sports Foundation Hall of Fame. And I think eventually, although I have a hard time believing any female golfer is going to get in on our first class, I would say within not that long, Kathy Whitworth will be a member of the United States Athletics Hall of Fame.
Yeah. And that's our last one?
That's the last one.
Okay. So I guess a return here with
elevator up, elevator down.
Elevator up, elevator down, where I look at someone who in the past week has made more of a Hall of Fame case or not. And these ones, I'm kind of, they're more shout outs, I think. One up, one down, per se. One up, and he's my early pick right now for the MVP in the NBA. And if you win that, and if you're not Derrick Rose, you get into the Hall of Fame.
That is true.
I've got right now Luka Doncic.
Okay.
As right now the front runner. And he just set a new record in Dallas with a 60-point game. That covers some pretty big territory for him to do that. The Mavs are, well, they're pretty much him and nobody else.
Mm-hmm.
No disrespect to Spencer Dinwiddie, and Christian Wood. If they're your number two, you're probably not going to go that far.
That is a true statement.
Right. But I mean, he's going to get them to the playoffs, and he could will them again to a Western Conference final, like he did. So I've got him. Earlier this year I said Joel Embiid was going to be the MVP. I did say it's going to be a non-American, so maybe I'll be right about that. So
I don't know. The Celtics had that weird 7-game stretch, but I still think Tatum is going to finish in the top 3 at least by the time it's all said and done. But Doncic, I mean, what did he do the other day? 60, 20, and 10?
Yeah. He's in the top. Was he the top 6 in points per game, steals, and assists?
But other than that, what has he ever done?
He's going to be will be an all-star again for sure. On pace to be a first team all NBA. It's all across the board. And I've got a couple, I guess, for my elevator down. And as Golden State is aging out, is Klay Thompson really a Hall of Famer?
Yes, he will be.
Yeah, but is he? Klay's the definite number 2, which he's a better number 2 than Spencer. That's for damn sure.
Well, is Green getting in?
Draymond Green?
Yeah.
I don't know. I think both of them are showing their age right now. Their all-star days are behind them. And Curry can win with other people. Klay can't.
That may be true. Well, Klay right now has no speed and can't get around anything. Like that injury has really messed with him.
No, and it's amazing what they were able to do last year. I wouldn't have pegged that at all. But this is a team that may not even make the playoffs, even in the play-in right now. And if this is true about Klay Thompson, and we're sure that his best work is behind him, is this a resume right now that's Hall of Fame worthy? I don't know. I seriously have to wonder about that. The other person that we really haven't talked a lot about, and I think a lot of people have sort of brought him up as an elevator down, and that's Russell Wilson.
Oh yeah, 100%.
And they got blown out again. If you look at the top, right now with the quarterbacks, and just in terms of stats, QBR rating and passer rating, Russell Wilson's in the bottom 5 in both.
Yeah, I know he's on my fantasy team, so believe me.
Yeah, so right now it's 12 touchdowns to 9 intercept. No, was it 12 to 9? I had that up here. It's like by far the worst year of his career. Oh yeah, it is. So yeah, 9 interceptions, 12 touchdowns. He is also I don't know if that's still the case, but last time I looked that up, he's dead last in the red zone in efficiency.
Yeah, I know.
Dead last.
Which is amazing because I've watched the Patriots offense this entire season.
I personally think he's somebody that I would push for a Hall of Fame candidacy. But we know what happens when the narratives can change like that. And it's changing on him, and it's changing very, very quickly. It's one thing to stink with a new team and at age 34. It's quite another to do that on year one of a very expensive contract.
Yeah,
That
someone was saying like all that the Broncos had to do would get somebody to take on the remaining part of his contract. I'm like, who is going to do that, and why would they?
at this point, he doesn't look when you watch him, he doesn't look slower, but he obviously is.
Mm-hmm. He's still won the who would you rather have Russell Wilson or Andrew Luck battle from a decade ago. But at this point, it is. I mean, he, Brady, and Rodgers all look washed to me. So does Ryan.
Yeah, but
So
he's actually worse than statistically than those three.
that's true.
And
But those, yeah, those are the three active quarterbacks with 300 career touchdowns, and they all fell off the cliff essentially at the same time. Although Ryan was had been doing pretty badly at the moment.
and because Russell just had a lot of could do a lot also with his legs, so he doesn't have those giant passing numbers
Right.
that others have. So what's going to happen to him next year? Now you can pin a lot of blame on Broncos coaching, and a lot of them have, but he's not the same guy.
No.
Quarterbacks don't drop off at 34 and then get better at 35. It
No.
doesn't happen. So they're in he's in massive trouble, and perception can change. The way it just will drop off so quickly.
Here's what's going to happen when his Hall of Fame candidacy comes up.
Mm-hmm.
You're gonna be like, he was good and then completely fell off. He had a bad age 33 season, fell off the cliff at 34. And the longer he plays, the worse it's going to be. But they're also going to have the argument that he was a quarterback in the NFL who never got a single vote for MVP. Still has never had a single vote for MVP.
I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah, that was a big thing because what was it, 3 seasons ago, the Russ Cook season, that whole first half of the year, like, is this the year he finally gets votes? And they completely fell off at the end. They end up getting none again. But I mean, that's going to come up.
Has more MVP votes than Russell Wilson.
Yeah, there are a lot of much worse players than Russell Wilson and more MVP votes than Russell Wilson.
Yeah.
But I guess telling you the argument we're going to hear in 20, what year is it? Let's say 2034, presuming we're both still alive. So,
well, the shitty way I take care of myself, I mean, I think I'm defying odds. I am going to be here forever. It's
there you go.
You're
like Montgomery Burns. Every disease is fighting to kill you at the same time, so they're fighting each other off.
Yeah, something like that. But I just intend to keep my hair.
So, fair enough. Yeah, that's the important thing.
But yeah, we haven't really talked a lot about him. I think maybe I haven't brought it up too much, maybe because I just didn't believe it.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't believe that this was really happening. I think also too, it's not like I watched any Denver games this year.
So like, good for you, because Al Michaels watched way too many. Talk about someone who's done with what he has to do. He and Herb Street on Thursday Night Football is painful. Mainly because Herb Street has no idea what's going on. I mean, that's part of it. And the games have just been terrible.
Mm-hmm.
So
they always give the Drek on Thursday, and usually that works out. But yeah, I mean, this is a narrative changer, especially for the amount of years that Denver's got to deal with that contract,
and
with the strict cap. So I think it also doesn't help either that Geno Smith is a Pro Bowler.
With his old team,
right? Which
Geno Smith and Tyrod Taylor are the two quarterbacks I always thought never really got that fair of a shot. And Geno's had a shot. Tyrod, I don't think ever will. Well, he did get a shot, but the shot went directly through his rib cage and into his lung. But like, there were just two quarterbacks who just always were in crappy situations. And Geno's in a good situation first time, and there you go.
Yeah.
Wouldn't it be funny if Geno Smith got a MVP vote? He won't, but
it would be. It would be in a weird sort of perverse way. It's I don't know. It's sad to watch. I mean, I have no love hate for Russell Wilson. I think we may not even be having this had Pete Carroll not sort of screwed up and he'd had 2 rings.
Yeah.
It's a hell of a lot harder to keep him out because Russell Wilson at one point, I think many years you could say was a top 5 quarterback, unlike a certain Manning.
It's unlike Eli. So,
hey, say what you want about Eli, but Eli, along with his brother, I mean, like with the show they do on ESPN, he's in I don't know, is it not Chunky Soup? I don't know. The Quaker Oatmeal, that's what it is.
mm-hmm.
So he's still a national figure, and Russell Wilson's a punchline.
Yep.
Punchlines don't get into a Hall of Fame.
Generally not.
Generally not. So yeah, I thought that was sort of about time to bring him up. I've been holding off on that for a while.
Fair enough.
Yeah. So are we doing good, bad, ugly, or bad, ugly, good?
Yeah, we'll do bad, ugly, good.
Yeah. Okay.
Huh? So we're gonna start with the bad. France, you lost the World Cup. Shut up about it. There's a petition going on right now that has over 200,000 signatures calling for a replay of the World Cup because they didn't think the officiating was fair. That the first penalty shot that the penalty shot that Argentina got was not actually a foul. It was. And that there was a foul on the play before the second goal that Di Maria scored. I guess there was, but it was legitimately 45 seconds before. So at some point, you got to just figure out, hey, we're not getting this call and keep moving. Just stop crying.
Yeah, petitions usually work too.
Yeah, very much so. So there is Argentina has a cross petition asking them to stop crying, but also awarding and making sure they get awarded the Hall of Fame, the World Cup award for. I want to get the actual thing here. They get the World Cup of Signatures award. So, yeah, just none of these things. Like, if you want to complain about the ref or whatever, like there are games. Mm-hmm. I'm sure Raiders fans think the snow game, or as they call it, the tuck roll game, mm-hmm. has some issues. I'm sure that the Saints fans would like that playoff game against the Rams back.
Vikings.
No, the Rams.
Oh, I'm thinking of the
where they. Well, I mean, the Vikings won too, but the Rams one where the ball was coming to receiver, he just got like speared before the ball even got there, and they called nothing. Like there are tons of games, but you don't replay the games because you didn't like a call.
I'd be embarrassed, frankly, to sign anything like that.
100%.
In any sport for anything, I would much rather go on my podcast and whine about it.
There you go. I mean, that's why men in their 40s get podcasts. Yeah. All right. So that's the bad. The ugly is the NBA has got a problem they got to deal with. And the problem is there are too many Mo Wagners and not enough Charles Oakleys in the league at the moment. I'm maybe going to pick on Mo Wagner, even though Mo Wagner played for the Celtics last year in one game where they almost lost, and he was an incredible -27 in 4 minutes, which is almost impossible to be on a basketball court. And he got cut like 2 days later from the team. But Mo Wagner, Grayson Allen, and people like that who live on cheap shotting people and then bitching about it, they need to have some sort of yellow card system or whatever where these folks get suspended. Now, Wagner got punched in the back of the head in this game between the Magic and Pistons a couple days ago. Did you see the play where he checked Killian Hayes on loose ball?
Yeah, I mean, like If it wasn't for that, I probably wouldn't have seen anything from that game.
Yeah, nobody would have.
Right.
But Killian Hayes, that ball was going out of bounds. Killian Hayes was running for it. It's clear neither of them were going to get it. And Mo Wagner just hip checked him while he was running full speed and went to the bench. Now there was a scuffle that ensued. During the scuffle, Killian Hayes got up off the bench and punched Wagner in the back of the head and knocked him out cold. Like he was out cold. They announced suspensions today, by the way.
Oh, okay.
Killian Hayes, how many games do you think Killian Hayes gets for punching somebody in the back of the head?
8.
So this is also Killian Hayes' first thing. He gets 3.
Okay.
Wagner gets 2. And Hamidou Diallo gets 1.
What did he do? I don't remember.
He was just involved in the fracas there with the pushing and everything.
That's probably why I don't remember.
But who else got suspended for 1?
No.
All the rest of the Magic. Cole Anthony, RJ Hampton, Gary Harris, Kevon Harris, Admiral Schofield, Franz Wagner, Mo Bamba, and Wendell Carter Jr. were all suspended for 1 game for coming off the bench. And they have to
how's that going to work?
Well, they have to stagger it. So Anthony Bamba, Carter Hampton, and Harris will serve the suspensions against Washington on Friday. And then Kevon Harris, Schofield, and Franz Wagner will be suspended for their January 4th game in Oklahoma City.
That's really going to hurt all of them for their chances to win the 3rd annual Naughton Hall of Fame Cup.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, I mean, there are fair play points involved. I know. So
he's not even the best Wagner on his team.
That is also true. But here's the problem. Like Grayson Allen earlier this week, or was it even yesterday? I can't. The days run together here at the end of the year. It's a crazy time for me at work, so I can't tell you what day anything happened. But Grayson Allen was slightly pushed and then took that opportunity to throw himself in the air and come down on DeMar DeRozan's back in that game. Now, DeRozan also crumpled like a house of cards. Let's be honest. He also dove. But then he's standing there with his hands over his head. I didn't do anything. I was pushed, right? Freaking Grayson Allen is a rec league player with range, right? He is a player who, if Charles Oakley was in the league, he'd wait for him to get a layup line and then push him into the 7th row. And that would be the end of Grayson Allen doing any of this shit.
And Oakley could.
Yeah, 100%. I think actually Wilbon said bring Oakley back. I wanted them to sign Oakley for 1 game just so that where they play the Bucks, just to take out Grayson Allen and walk away.
And when I say Oakley could, I mean Oakley still now.
Oh yeah. Oh no. If there is one former sports athlete who I do not want to meet in a back alley, give me any sport, anyone, Charles Oakley is probably the man who I'd least want mad at me.
Up there.
Like there are other people I wouldn't want. I don't want LT mad at me either.
Especially after a couple rails or 2.
Yeah, I mean there are other people I would not want mad at me, but Oakley he still looks like he could fight. That dude just looks. He's still ripped. After all these years, he's still ripped. But that's a problem. They got to figure this out because otherwise more of this punching shit's going to happen. They need to get these people who offend. Now, again, I have a guy on my team who a lot of people think do the same thing with Marcus Smart, right? Although Smart is not the cheap shot artist. Does he flop on charges all the time? Oh, hell yes, 100%. But he's not, other than there's a situation last year during the regular season where he dove for the ball and took Steph Curry out for a couple months because Curry went for the ball but didn't dive, and then Smart dove for the ball, and Steve Kerr was all up in arms about how dare Smart dive for a basketball. That's a different thing. If you're in a situation where you're actually actively trying to do something, I get it. But this whole getting people hurt bullshit needs to stop, and the league needs to figure out fast. Because at some point, someone's going to throw a punch. I mean, the most famous punch in NBA history, other than Malice Palace, still is Kermit Washington. The greatest athlete ever from my college or university, Kermit Washington, probably. And he hit Rudy Tomjanovich so hard that Rudy Tomjanovich tasted his own brain fluid. We're going to have a situation like that break out if they don't figure this out soon.
Here's a sentence I never thought I'd say 5 years ago. I think right now, Gary Bettman's a better commissioner than Adam Silver.
It's
I
getting that point. I actually don't think silver's been that bad. I just think Bettman's been actually really good.
well,
It used to be Adam Silver in a three-way tie for fifth.
let's just say let's just say the silver's a little tarnished these days.
Can you tarnish silver? I guess you can because there's silver polish. I know that there's silver polish that my mom had in her drawer in the dining room for the candlesticks. So you must be able to tarnish silver.
I know I'm allergic to it.
You're allergic to silver?
Yeah, I want to know how I found that out.
On a full moon when someone shot you.
That's almost as good as the truth. Though my first marriage, we had matching silver bands. Turned my finger
Oh.
green. If that wasn't an omen,
Probably a sign. I had a cousin who got married, and nobody liked the husband, and so they handed out these little spruce. They got married in Colorado. These little spruce trees, and the bottom kind of looked like a test tube. Does that make sense? So you could take them home and grow them along with their love.
Yeah.
Literally, all the trees died within a week. Like nobody, even people who normally take care of stuff, couldn't keep them alive. And that wedding didn't go very far either. So it's probably a sign.
Oh, it was definitely a sign. Actually, I'm trying to think what lasted longer, that marriage or the stain on my finger. But that's another story.
Anyway,
actually, that is the story. There is no.
This story. Let's get to the good.
All right.
This is a weird good, but it's good on multiple levels to me. I don't know if you saw this, but this is the most major league umpires we're going to have retiring at one time in over 20 years.
Is that why I saw Angel Hernandez trending? I just thought it was something.
Yes, because he hasn't retired yet somehow.
Oh,
he's not one of them.
Okay. I didn't click onto why. I figured it was just something about bad officiating, and I couldn't be bothered.
Yeah, no, because not all these guys are bad umps. So 10 of them are stepping away, including some good ones. I think Ted Barrett's been real good. Tom Hallion has one of the best strike calls ever. He goes, like, I always love watching. I'm like, oh, Tom Hallion's here. I can watch the umpire. Jerry Meals has done pretty well. I always thought Marty Foster's pretty good. But 7 crew chiefs and 3 others. So a total of Ted Barrett, Greg Gibson, Tom Hallion, Sam Holbrook, Jerry Meals, Jim Reynolds, and Bill Welke, all crew chiefs. And then Marty Foster, Paul Nowert, and Tim Timmons are all retiring. So they're going to have 10 new umps coming up this year. I think it's good because we're getting new blood in here. And I think after a while, maybe it's not as much when you first come in. Maybe you're trying to make a name for yourself, but sometimes umps become the show at a certain level. And it'd be good to have some more people to force Angel Hernandez to realize he's the oldest person needs to retire. But I wanted to say some good things about particularly Ted Barrett, Tom Hallion, and a few of the others here. That good for them putting everything in. And Barrett talked about, it was actually, Barrett had a really good story about one of the first times he realized how hard it was to be major league umpire. He was umping behind the plate when David Cone was pitching. And he'd been told to watch for Cone's slider because the movement happened so late. And he saw tons of sliders in minors, so he thought he was good. And the ball came in, and he called ball before it even crossed the plate. And Mike McFarland caught it, looked up at him, and said, "First time having a Cone, kid?" He's like, "Yeah, I knew I was in the big leagues." It's just interesting stuff. I really appreciate Ted Barrett really more than any of them. But just so the good part, congratulations to them on good careers. I don't have anything bad really to say about any of them. Greg Gibson was the first ump ever to have a call overturned by instant replay, but somebody had to be. The other part of it, like I said, new people coming in. They're trying to get younger and more diverse. There will not be a woman yet. The top woman is actually in AA, though. She's been promoted up. So we may have one shortly. Her name's Jen Powell. I think it's Powell, Pawol. But just it's good to have more people coming in and celebrate those coming out. Let's see who comes in. Hopefully, the more people come in, the less of this Joe Westing that we've had where I am the game. I'm more important than everything else. So that's all I have to say. I don't usually talk about umpiring, particularly in a positive light, but there we go. I think it's a good thing.
Well, maybe if they have a problem with it, the French can sort of petition, see how that works out for it.
Yes, maybe they could petition to bring back Joe West.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Well, or like if there's got like a French team and there's something I should be looking forward to and I'm not. The World Baseball Classic.
Yeah, there actually I have to say this joke. I'm sorry. There are a couple French teams. There's a Lyons club,
Mm-hmm.
and that the Nice guys, they always finish last.
Nice.
Thank you.
I wonder how many of the team representing Israel and Italy have actually been to those places. But anyway,
I don't know. Be interesting. Yeah, that was that. I at one point made a whole fake league of baseball players when I was a kid because I'm a nerd, making jokes, putting them in Europe and making jokes with all the team names. So those were a couple of them. I also had the Crimea Rivers, the Brussels Sprouts, the Warsaw Casualties, and the London Derriers. So
not the silly nannies.
no, I didn't. No, London Dairy Air is a very famous classical music piece, and I was taking piano at the time. So that's the London Dairy space AIRE is a word, but I just went with the London Dairy Airs. Also, I think there was a Dublin Populations and a few others. So I've always been a nerd, everybody, in case you're wondering. I take that back. I'm more a functional dork than a nerd. So
there you go.
Yeah.
With that, it's time for my plugs.
There we go.
Mm-hmm. So thanks again. I've already said this, but we're going to be doing this one more time where we're going to have our committee and this time it's going to be a little bit different where we're not looking for pre-votes ahead of time. Everyone's going to will be assigned someone to make a Hall of Fame case for. So that'll be happening. Looks like the 17th.
Okay.
So it'll be on a Tuesday coming up. So look for that. We'll probably do that live again. So yeah, that's going to be happening soon. Right now we're on a hiatus with the other show just because Andrea is on a cruise. But when she comes back on How the Hell Did This Go #1, we're going back to the roots because they've been keep picking all these good songs. So I decided I'm going to mix things up a bit. So the next recording will be the Osmonds, One Bad Apple.
Yeah, you tried to get me to join that one, but I have nothing I could say about the Osmonds. So.
I don't even know that much about them. It just seems terrible.
Fair enough.
I don't even know that I remember the damn song, frankly. But
I do vaguely.
Yeah, it just sort of stands out. So I thought, okay, we're going to talk about Donnie and Marie, though Marie's not part of it. Chris Bourdet and I, we have finished recording Learning the Ropes. That was on, this crap was on national television. So we did that one. You ever see that show?
No, I did not. We talked about this. I have not seen that one.
Okay. Yeah. And just recorded today for the first one. So episode 1 will come up. It's going to be the retro football review.
Oh, cool.
Where Paul Lawrence and you're going to be a guest on that, by the way, at some time. So that one, we looked at the Ice Bowl.
Oh, that's a good one to start with.
Yeah, so we're just going to be taking like the massive games. We decided not to do Super Bowl 1 and 2. Just people didn't care about it but this was a far more iconic game, and it sort of ties in with a lot of the Hall of Fame perceptions. How some people's career. Well, Jerry Kramer's career was punctuated by it, but at the same time, as we were discussing, it probably hurt his candidacy at the same time. And I'll explain why when that comes up.
Didn't do as much for Max McGee as it should have.
No, it did not.
Max McGee, in case you guys don't know, was wasted the night before. Didn't think he was going to play in the Super Bowl, so just got drunk, and then was hung over the entire game and had the game of his life. So,
but yeah, so like that's all that's coming up. Vinny Lossmanuso will join us in the new year for Vinny Makes the Hall of Fame case for, and I'm excited for this one. He's going to do Kurt Flood.
Oh, cool. That's one that definitely needs to happen.
Yeah. So
100% he needs to happen, even if you're doing a contributor rather than a player. I don't think his playing numbers are probably quite good enough, but part of that was because of what he did as a contributor to change the landscape of sports. And everybody else involved in that's already in the Hall of Fame now that Marvin Miller got in and Bowie Kuhn was ridiculously put in before any of them. So why the two white dudes get in and Kurt Flood, who took the stand, doesn't, I don't know. But Kurt Flood should.
Oh, I think you just did.
Yeah. So, but yeah, that I'm definitely looking forward to that one. That's going to be really exciting. By the way, also going to New Year, I'm not going to be here next Thursday.
Oh,
it's my birthday. We talked about this, and I am going to be in a location to be named.
So all right, so I need a fill in then, is what you're telling me.
Yeah, so it's going to be difficult for me to travel and do this just because of everything going on. It also happens to be my nephew's birthday as well.
Okay.
So we're going to be handling both.
All righty then. Okay, I think I know who I'm going to ask. All right, sounds good.
Cool.
Well, thank you all for watching, and wherever you are, wherever you may be, stay safe, everyone.
Take care, guys.
Or maybe not. I don't know.
Yeah. He just, it's hard. I mean, you see all the fights of fans in the stadium. It's hard to keep it cool, particularly when that is happening. So
yeah, and he did in enemy territory, and I thought that was awesome. And then I showed her the tweet of what Robert Kraft did, and I said, like, okay, I'm not a Saints person, but I can see why you're a Patriots person. This is why, and this is what you say to people.
Yeah, I will say he is the best part of Patriots fandom because we have some jackholes just like everybody else. But yeah, no, it was very, very impressive. So
yeah, well, and I guarantee you that if we were to talk to our friend Wayne Mabry, the violator, Wayne would have said,
Yeah. Oh, I know. Well, I mean, Wayne is also, I mean, the Raiders fan base looks terrifying, but it's actually very, very nice. So, and Wayne is a perfect example of that. This is just one drunk person. I'm not taking her for Raiders fan base either.
No, absolutely not. So, like, but yeah, that was something I was hoping you were going to bring up, and just Kraft. That was a class move, and
yeah. So the other thing I want to bring up is another Pro Bowler we did not talk about, first time Pro Bowler, Jeremy Reeves.
Yes, please.
Of the Washington Commanders. I just want to read you a transaction log. You ready? This is a man who's a Pro Bowl starter as a special teamer in the NFC. June 11th of 18, signed as an undrafted free agent with the Eagles. 1st of September of 18, waived. 12th of September 18, signed to the practice squad in Washington. 18th of September 18, released from practice squad. I'll just, without going the dates, signed to practice squad, signed the active roster, waived, signed to practice squad, signed the active roster. Waived, signed to the practice squad, signed to the active roster, waived, signed to the practice squad, signed the active roster, returned to the practice squad, signed the active roster, returned to the practice squad, signed the active roster, returned to the practice squad, signed the active roster, returned to the practice squad, and was finally signed to the active roster full time in January of this year with the Commanders.
Yep.
And so one of those guys who has worked his butt off just to make a team, worked his butt off as a special teamer, undrafted, I think out of South Alabama, if I remember correctly, and is now a Pro Football Hall of Famer. If you haven't seen the video, the Commanders issued the video with Ron Rivera sharing the news with all the players. And who was it? Allen, who was also Pro Bowler, found out that Reeves made it, was super excited for him. And he's like, well, I'm going to tell him after the defensive team meeting. He's like, pull him out of there. Tell him now. And he's like, now I'm going to tell him after the meeting. He's like, well, can I be in the room when you do it? He's like, yeah, sure, you can be in the room, whatever. But yeah, so just I like it when guys who have worked their butt off to chase a dream get rewarded for it. I honestly didn't know Jeremy Reeves because I don't pay attention to the special teamers on the Washington Commanders.
Yeah.
But just cheers to you, sir. Congratulations on making. He just lost his mom this offseason. So just good for you. So I just want to say that. All right. The bad, or let's just go the ugly because we already sort of touched on it. The ending of that Patriots Raiders game. So the obvious thing we're going to talk about is the Jacoby Myers decision. But before that, the Patriots never should have been in that situation because he game time touchdown. The guy was out of bounds. He had 1 foot down inbounds and 1 foot out of bounds. But because the color of his shoes were black in the middle and white on the edge, which is the same as the black of the end zone and white on the edge end line of the sideline of the Raiders end zone, even though everyone in the stadium could see he was out of bounds, they never got a definitive view. And they called it a touchdown because it was called a touchdown on the field. He said he called it incomplete. It would have been incomplete on the field. This is dumb. If they can't get something as simple as was somebody inbounds or not, what are we doing? They have that technology now for offsides in soccer. Why can't we have the same technology in the NFL for a sideline?
I don't know.
It's just ridiculous. So first of all, that should never have happened. A terrible call. Technically, the Patriots have lost 2 games this year because of terrible calls at the end zone. But regardless, that play at the end of the game, they hand it to Stevenson. Stevenson's just supposed to go down. He panics when he gets he ran 20 yards. Had someone finally try and tackle him. He gets through that guy. He's gone. But instead, he panics, gives it to Jacoby Myers. And then Jacoby Myers really panics and throws the ball backwards 15 yards halfway across the field to hit Chandler Jones right in the hands. Chandler Jones was a Patriot, but not recently. And then Mac Jones made a business decision in trying to tackle him. He tried to go low to get his legs. I'm not blaming him. He tried to go low to get his legs, and Chandler anticipated that, put his hand on him, and just ran into the end zone to win the game with no time left. It's been called the dumbest play in NFL history. That is not true because it was someone trying to make a play at the end of a game. It's not as dumb as the Colts weird formation.
Oh, yes. Yeah, I know where you're going with that.
Snapped where they had the one random player, a special teamer in the center or the long snapper, and then all of the 9 players on the left sideline, and they snapped the ball. That's still the dumbest play because it was somehow designed that way. He wasn't supposed to snap it, but just the design of that thing was stupid anyway.
Agreed. I agree with you.
But this is one of, and we also had, what's his name, run the wrong way to get for an end zone with the Vikings way back in the 70s. Right? I can't think of his name.
Jim Marshall.
Yeah, Marshall, right. Like, that's also not the greatest. But this was the worst play in Patriots history without any question about it. It's going to live on blooper reels forever. I feel bad because I wish it were a different wide receiver than Jacoby Myers, who's another one of those guys, undrafted, worked his way up, the most consistent receiver on the team. But he's going to have to live with this for a while. So that was the ugly.
So we're closing with the bad.
Close with the bad.
Wah, wah, wah.
There are now 12 teams in Major League Baseball who have payrolls when added up is less than the amount of money the Mets gave out this offseason.
Is that Bobby Bonilla?
No, it's their entire Carlos Correa. Most likely.
I don't know.
Yeah, you haven't been paying attention to this?
I'm working on it. Go on.
Oh my goodness. So the Mets payroll, when you add in the penalty for the competitive balance tax or whatever is going to be north of $400 million next year. It's already going to be three something. They're going to pay $111 million in tax, the revenue sharing tax. I'm not saying this is bad for the Mets. I'm not saying it's bad for the sport. What I'm going to say is it's bad for cheap ass owners who don't want to spend on their teams.
Okay.
I'm looking at you, Mr. Illich, in Detroit. I'm looking at the current people in Boston who, to be fair, spend a lot of money on terrible players. They are still probably being the luxury tax next year and finish. I'm going to say if they finish with a 40% winning percentage, I will be shocked with how bad that team is. The Red Sox.
Yeah.
Like, there are a lot of cheap ass owners. Oakland, Pittsburgh, Kansas City, Arizona, Colorado. These are people who have a ton of money and have been crying poor so they can own a team and get the taxpayers to pay for stuff. And the current owner of the Mets just came out and was like, fuck that. I don't care. I want to win. And if you don't want to, that's more wins for us.
And they won't win either.
Oh, who knows? They may not win. I mean, they and the Dodgers are on a march for this, right? But like,
yeah. I'll put it right there. The Mets will not win. They will find a way to lose.
Fine. Okay, but
they're
at
least
if I'm
right or wrong. I'm
you
just saying.
You cannot blame their owner and GM for not doing everything they can to get there.
No, I agree.
Which is all as a fan you can hope for.
Sure.
Right.
And I could be way off. I'm just going with my spidey sense.
Yeah, I don't have any anger against the Mets anymore. We've won too many World Series since '86, so it doesn't bother me anymore. It's now been what?
No, so don't go by me. I lose every bet to Evan.
That's true. It's been 37 years since the Mets won. If the Mets
and 42 since I've won a bet with Evan.
If the Mets became the dominant team in New York and the Yankees just continue not to, that would make my life. But yeah, it's very bad for cheap ass owners. It may end up with some more competitive balance stuff, or maybe a salary cap. Although I can't imagine with how strong that union is, that's going to work. So we'll see. It's just very, very bad for some very, very cheap ass people. So that's all I'll say on that.
All right. Well, with that, I guess we're going to close off a few things here. So again, thank you for all who participated in our show in terms of our Pro Football Hall of Fame mock committee. That meant a lot to us.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. So all of you who are part of that, thank you. Thank you so much. We're hoping that we're going to go with that a little bit more in terms of fandom, right? Like Evan, like what are we trying to do? We're trying to get like people from fan bases that we don't really have.
I mean, and who don't necessarily look like us either. Yeah.
No, very much so. So basically, if you're a woman, we want you. Not sexually, but we want you. Gotta put that out there. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So do the Uncle Sam way. We want you to be on our podcast.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, but it's true though. Like that is something that we're missing. We're missing that type of demographic, and we want to continue to make that as diverse as possible. All right, just the other promotion things that I've done. Chris Burnett and I, we've just done a show where we looked at learning the ropes. Ever heard of that?
I'm sorry?
Learning the ropes.
No, that one I do not know.
Yeah. So he and I, we do a show about how the hell is this crap go on national television? So Lyle Alzado, you know who that is.
That I do, or who he was anyway.
Yes. Well, Lyle did a show about being a pro wrestler who was also a teacher. How does that sound to you?
Sounds pretty much like the alternate plot for The Substitute.
I don't know what that is, but this sounds.
Never mind. Continue. The Substitute is a early 90s movie about a substitute teacher who's really a hard ass that comes into inner city school and sets the kids straight. At one point it's a kid drinking a glass bottle and he has a yo-yo and he uses the yo-yo as a weapon to break the bottle in the kid's hand. That's
Okay,
about all I remember from
that sounds like
Substitute.
Lean on Me.
Yeah, but it's a white person in these schools as opposed to a black person. Homie, see who's in the Substitute.
Okay, well, Lyle's a white person, and this show still sucked, and he had
Fair
no
enough.
yo.
Yeah, it's Tom Berenger in 1996. Tom Berenger, Ernie Hudson, and Mark Antony.
Oh, well, this is Lyle Alzado in 1988, and we ripped on this shit
There
as
you
we
go.
should. So that's also going to be coming up. On the other show that you've been a guest on, I think you have been a guest on this.
Mhm.
How the hell did this go number one?
I have been.
Yes, Uptown Funk.
Nice.
So that's coming up soon. The one we're going to do for the first time for next year, maybe you want to be on this. One Bad Apple, the Osmonds.
Yeah, that one I can skip. I don't have much to say about the Osmonds. So
None of us do. None of us do. But there was also three other shows that I'm working on in the infancy of this. So either way, if you were a fan of the Buchnerverse, and thank you.
fair enough.
Yes, there's going to be a lot more coming. So with that, wherever you are, wherever you may be, stay safe, everyone.
Take care.